Have you ever felt like you were being punished for doing the right thing at work? You know, you're the hero, you're rushing in to solve all the problems, only to find yourself getting in trouble for it? Well, today we're going to dive into a case study that shows exactly how to shift from being that frustrated hero into a strategic architect. Someone who doesn't just put out fires, but redesigns the whole system so the fires don't even start in the first place. Let's get into it. So, it all starts with this one line. Just think about that. We have an employee who is passionate about great customer service, but she's getting chewed out because her colleagues are complaining. They say she's interfering by helping their clients. And why she's stepping in? Because her coworkers are flat out ignoring simple requests. You know, for a glass of water or some ice, things that won't get them a big commission or a tip. She's just trying to do the right thing for the customer, but the system itself is punishing her for it. I bet it does. That feeling of just constantly hitting a wall, where your best effort to do good work just leads to more conflict instead of praise, it's a classic sign, really. It means you're not fighting against a person. You're fighting a broken system. It's a bad design that pits your good intentions against a set of really flawed incentives. You can feel it in your gut when doing the right thing suddenly feels like the hardest thing to do. And this is where we see a huge disconnect. The hero's first instinct is always to just double down, right? To work harder, try to be even more helpful. But the reality of the system she's in is that it's designed to reward selfish behavior. And look, no amount of individual heroism is ever going to fix a system that incentivizes the exact opposite of what the company says it values. And this is the crucial turning point. This is where the architect steps back. They stop blaming their coworkers. They stop blaming their boss. They have a realization. The real problem isn't bad people, it's a bad design. And that's when the focus shifts away from personal frustration and toward a cool, strategic analysis of the system itself. So the architect starts asking a totally different kind of question. It's not, how do I get my coworkers to work as hard as I do? No. The question becomes, what is it about this system that's causing this behavior in the first place? This question looks right past the symptoms, the ignored customers, the complaints, to find the actual root cause. And the diagnosis reveals a deep, deep human cost. First, the sense of justice, it's shattered. Good work is literally being punished. The feeling of community, it's destroyed by a system that forces employees to compete against each other. And her sense of purpose, it's in a head-on collision with the company's day-to-day reality. This isn't just a process problem. It's an emotional gut punch. And that emotional drain, it translates directly into real tangible costs for the business. Customers are left waiting, which creates a terrible experience. Every single unhappy customer is a defect that hurts the brand's reputation. And maybe the worst part of all is that the company is wasting its most valuable resource, an employee's passion. It's turning their talent into a source of conflict. Once you've diagnosed both the human and the business costs, now you have the leverage you need to propose a real solution. So with that clear diagnosis in hand, the architect doesn't just complain, they build. They propose something called a P&I, which stands for a non-intervention protocol. This is all about turning that personal frustration into a professional, systemic solution that's actually going to benefit everyone. So what exactly is a P&I? Don't let the fancy name fool you, it's actually pretty simple. A non-intervention protocol is basically just a clear playbook. Think of it like the pre-agreed rules of the game that define exactly who does what and when. It gets rid of all the ambiguity and makes sure key tasks are always handled the same way to the same standard. It prevents chaos before it can even start. Okay, so here's the specific P&I that was proposed in our case study. It's called P&I Serve 01. It all starts when any customer request triggers an action. The owner is the nearest team member who becomes the first responder. Their job is to provide immediate first aid for basic needs, like getting that glass of water. If a bigger sale is possible, they then do a warm transfer to the right salesperson. But the real key, the thing that makes this whole thing work, is step 4. Pooling the tips and commissions. This is the engine that makes the whole system run. It directly fixes the root problem we found earlier, those misaligned incentives. All of a sudden, helping any customer benefits every employee. A happy customer who tips well now rewards the entire team, not just one person. This one change aligns everyone's financial interests with the customer's best interest, and, just as importantly, with each other's. Okay, but what happens when you present this logical, powerful, elegant solution and management just says no? This, right here, is the hardest part of being an architect, dealing with a system that actively fights back against change. And this is the classic response, isn't it? It's not a logical argument, it's a defense mechanism. The manager isn't evil, they're just operating from an old, obsolete mental model. And they see change not as an opportunity, but as a threat to their control. They look at a problem solver and see a problem causer. So a hero is just going to push against this wall and get completely exhausted. But the architect uses a much more advanced strategy. It's kind of like Aikido. Instead of meeting force with more force, they use the wall's own energy, its own rigidity to their advantage. This script is a masterclass in that Aikido strategy. By asking this seemingly innocent question, our employee does three brilliant things. First, she shows obedience, which totally disarms the manager. Second, she exposes the fact that there is no official protocol. And third, she transfers the responsibility for solving the problem right back to the manager. She's no longer the problem causer. She's just a loyal employee asking for a little clarity. So now, armed with whatever instructions the manager gives her, which are likely non-existent, the architect's next move is to just silently collect data. Not opinions, not feelings, but cold, hard facts. A simple log like this one completely changes the conversation. It goes from, "I feel like customers are waiting too long," to, "This week, 25 customers waited more than 5 minutes for service." Data is the one language that even the most resistant manager has to listen to. So you've diagnosed the system, you've proposed a solution, you've navigated resistance with data, but what if, after all that, the system still refuses to change? Well, this brings us to the final and most difficult step in the architect's journey, the decision. At this point, you have to face a hard truth. You've proven the case. The problem isn't about logic anymore, it's about the will of the organization. The system has made a conscious choice to stay broken. You've tried to cultivate a beautiful garden, but you're working in soil that is actively rejecting water. So now, there are really only three paths left. You can be the martyr and just stay and burn out. You can be the lone hero, keep fighting this unwinnable fight, and probably get pushed out eventually. Or you can take the architect's path. Recognize that you've outgrown your environment and begin designing your exit to a new system, one that actually values your skills and your mindset. And that leaves us with the final question, one for you to think about. A great architect doesn't keep trying to build a masterpiece in a swamp. They find solid ground where their vision can actually thrive. So take a hard look at your own work environment. Are you building on fertile ground, or is it maybe time to find a better place to build?